So Justin Baldoni released his team, put the transcript on the docket, but it was not public. It was private. And immediately the Blake Lively's team writes a letter to Judge Lyman immediately and says, this is not okay. And this is what they say. And I actually don't think it was Gottlieb. I think actually who wrote it, it was Ezra Hudson, our bestie, Ezra Hudson. Also Judge Lyman's bestie, but I say that seriously. I actually do think. Is this the one that? Yes. Okay. So this was written on August 4th. This was just written today. All right. And this is very, very telling about where they stand about all of this. It says, pursuant to federal rule, Miss Lively respectfully moves to strike the Wayfarer defendant's letter attaching the entire uncertified rough draft transcript of Miss Lively's confidential deposition testimony and to deny the letter motion to seal as moot. In rushing to file on the public docket the entirety of the 292-page transcript on the day they received it, with no plausible legal reason to do so, the Wayfarer defendants and their counsel have proved Miss Lively's point. So basically, they're saying right off the bat, it's saying, we are not happy that Justin Baldoni's team immediately filed the deposition testimony, the 292-page deposition testimony, you guys, 292-page testimony, but they're not happy because it's the rough draft testimony, which is so weird, by the way, because what other kind of transcript other than a rough draft? I mean, I guess other than some spelling errors, it doesn't make any sense that you would have a final draft other than spelling errors. Like what's said is said. That's it. It's a transcript. It's a court reporter. And they have a videographer, so you can kind of really make sure. And then it says, the transcript was ostensibly filed in support of their argument that there is no basis to assert that Brian Friedman or his firm have participated in, fueled, and advanced a smear campaign against Miss Lively such that their conduct has amounted to public relations work rather than that of an attorney. But in fact, this tactic perfectly demonstrates the counsel as PR agent role because there is no conceivable legal purpose to file the whole transcript, particularly given that it is not been reviewed, corrected, or finalized, and a mere 2 pages of it were cited in their argument. So they are not happy that they released the transcript because they're using it as part of their argument, which is basically to say they don't have anything. They have nothing. Blake Lively has no proof in her argument that this was a smear campaign. Well, yeah, of course. Brian Friedman and Justin Baldoni's side are obviously going to use her transcript and her testimony in this deposition to say, clearly they have nothing. Of course they're going to do that. So let's continue. It says, I'm wondering if I can make this bigger for you guys to see it better. But then maybe. Can you guys see that? The letter and attachment should be seen for what they are, a manufactured excuse to force the transcript into the public domain as fodder for the Wayfarer defendants' media campaign. It is surely not lost on the Wayfarer defendants that given the pending motion to seal, the burden is on Miss Lively to file a letter motion explaining the particular reasons for seeking to keep any of the 292 pages of the transcript under seal. So basically, they're pissed because now Blake has to file to keep it under seal. I'm sorry, poor thing. The Wayfarer defendants and their counsel hope to make Miss Lively defend the continued sealing of the transcript so they can advance a false narrative that Miss Lively is afraid of her deposition testimony becoming public, which is entirely untrue and deeply harmful. Well, of course, because, you know, when you're telling the truth, you really should have nothing to hide, which is why, for example, just FYI, for example, Justin Baldoni has never had to hide his comments. He's never had to turn off his comments. He's never had to do anything like that because I'll never forget sitting there on Zach Peters' stage in Chicago and Stu said right next to us, yeah, he has nothing to hide. But anyone else that has to change their narrative and shift their narrative and delete and hide and change and do and if you're telling the truth, you shouldn't be so scared about hiding everything. Just a thought. So they're really concerned that the public is now going to be like, well, why is she hiding? Why is she hiding? Why is she hiding? Yeah, I mean, it is a little strange. Why are you hiding? But also, just put it under seal. It's okay. I don't care. I mean, you have a right to keep it under seal. Now it continues, says, Miss Lively affirmatively pursued this litigation with the full intention and desire to have her testimony heard in a legal process governed by the rules of evidence, which publicly filing this rough draft transcript in this manner substantially undermines. To suggest otherwise is part of an ongoing character attack that Mr. Friedman has been advancing to undermine Miss Lively's credibility and taint the jury pool. That is not a proper use of confidential discovery material or this court's docket. So now, once again, they're going after Blake. They're going after Friedman, saying this is an ongoing smear campaign. They're trying once again to taint the jury pool when they eventually do go to trial in March to say to the jury, why did Blake Lively so desperately want to keep her testimony and her transcript from this deposition sealed? Clearly, she had something to hide. Oh my God. Okay, continues. Accordingly, Ms. Lively respectfully requests that the court strike the uncertain certified rough draft transcript from the record and order the Wayfarer defendants to file only that portion of the transcript cited in their August 1st letter. Okay, and let's continue. Now, this part is going to trigger the shit out of you guys. It's wild. Consistent with their goal of creating a media circus around Miss Lively's deposition, it also appears that the Wayfarer defendants immediately leaked details from the deposition to the tabloid media. This part pisses me off. This began by selectively sharing from a quote unquote source in the room that Mr. Baldoni was in attendance, apparently to advance a storyline that the deposition was a face-to-face showdown between Mr. Baldoni and Miss Lively. The next day, more leaks from a quote unquote source close to the deposition described in detail Miss Lively's attire for the deposition, also revealing those who accompanied her, mocked Miss Lively's legal team, and then discussed extensively the Wayfarer defendants' themes from their now dismissed case. The narrative created was that Miss Lively needed a large contingent from people with her to testify, while misleadingly suggesting that only Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Friedman were present for the deposition on their side. The reality is that Miss Lively testified across the table from Mr. Baldoni, Jamie Heath, Steve Sarowitz, Melissa Nathan, and Jennifer Abel, all of whom attended this deposition in person, as well as 8 attorneys representing the Wayfarer and Wallace parties, 2 of whom questioned her. We can go through a little bit of those footnotes if we need to. Filing the uncertified, it's also an uncertified. Now it's like, maybe it's a lie, right? Rough draft of the deposition transcript when it serves no legitimate litigation purpose is disrespectful to the types of allegations at issue here and to the litigation process. It harms harassment and retaliation victims like Miss Lively. Everything. She is a victim to everything. I can't stand perpetual victims like this. It's killing me. Who already bear physical and mental health consequences from the underlying incidents and are forced to repeatedly relive the trauma through litigation, including court filings, depositions, and court testimony. And in this case, also through seated press and social media gossip and scrutiny about her confidential testimony, thanks to the Wayfarer defendants. Such tactics also have an untold chilling effect that serves to silence other sexual harassment victims. Accordingly, Miss Lively respectfully requests that the court grant her motion to strike the uncertified rough draft deposition transcript from the docket, deny the letter motion to seal as moot, and order the Wayfarer defendants to file only that portion cited in their August 1st letter under seal. It's beyond. Girly C says, I'm rolling my eyes so hard I can see my brain. It's getting very, very frustrating to cover this case. You can't start a war and not expect to get blowback. If you are starting a battle, I don't care if you believe that you are in the right. If you start a war, you have to expect that the person you start a war with has a right to defend themselves. That's the truth. This is such bullshit. And if you know, like, if you can read between the lines what I'm saying, then you're going to understand what I'm saying right now. And it feels so incredibly like gaslighting to any single person out there that is like, but you filed, Blake. You filed. You started it. This was a sleeping situation. Everything was fine. Everything was calm. Everything was calm and like moving on. We were all fine. You woke the giant. You called the New York Times. You got things rolling. And now you're like, but stop being mean. No, that's not how it works. This is part of the process.